Tapping in.
Are we live?
Forward marketing. All right, but what's happening with Georgia according to Left Forbes?
So, title: Stacey Abrams founded group sues over voter suppression bill. 3 voting rights groups have sued the state of Georgia, claiming sweeping new voting restrictions signed into law Thursday, including limiting ballot drop boxes and shortening voting hours, violate the Voting Rights Act. As Republicans in the state face backlash for passing a bill many considered a voter suppression act. The key facts, starting with the New Georgia Project, which was founded by activists and 2018 Governor National candidate Stacey Abrams, along with the Black Voters Matter Fund and Rise Inc., filed a lawsuit against state election officials Thursday evening, U.S. District Court in Atlanta. The suit seeks injunctive action to block new election restrictions outlined in Senate Bill 202. The voter suppression bill, as plaintiffs label it, which was signed into law by Republican Brian Kemp Thursday after quickly passing the state House and Senate in votes along party lines. Okay, so here are some of the things that...
So what does that say to you?
So I just want to go over some of the things that the bill will actually do. Yeah, sorry about that. The bill outlines numerous new constraints when it comes to voting in a state, such as limiting the amount of ballot drop boxes, shortening the early voting period, and prohibiting non-poll workers from giving food or water to voters waiting in line. The lawsuit alleges the bill violates making it harder for Black Georgians to access ballots, while also claiming violates the First and 14th Amendments. That was a lot to read. But the reason why I wanted to go over all of those things is because some of the terms that are tossed around in common media when it comes to politics, especially that as prolific as the United States governmental makeup and how convoluted that can be at a time. Things such as voter suppression, you could think you know what that means, but it's important to break down what that means, and then getting into how this bill particularly is not in favor of people of color. That's why I'm glad the article highlighted exactly the ways that Black people would be disadvantaged by it. But voter suppression, right? Starting right there from an American and someone who's in the political system to an extent. What does that mean?
I think voter suppression is any act that intentionally decreases the number of people that have the opportunity to participate in the political process, right? And often that's done to the great detriment of Black folks. I think voter suppression is often done when people don't feel like their participation in the political system by fair means will achieve the desired results and perpetuate the status quo. And I think we have Republican lawmakers demonstrating that by intervening on the voting process with very little evidence that a voter fraud in the recent election. What we do have evidence of was a massive mobilization of Black people to vote. And it feels like that's what they're responding to. So when we talk about the limiting of ballot drop boxes, when we talk about shortening early voting periods, and when we're talking about not allowing people to give out food and water at polling places, it very clearly sounds to me like intentionally disparaging people from participating in the political process and exercising their rights.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times we forget something such as limiting the polling, limiting the number of voting boxes that are actually there. It could sound like something that is distributed equally amongst many different places, but then you start to take into account, okay, how many different polling stations, the ease of accessibility for polling stations in disenfranchised communities and in communities that are affluent. So, how easy is it for people to be able to get to those places? And also the decision process of which particular voting stations are the ones that have their ballots reduced. There's a whole other system behind it that would make these decisions that at times has shown itself not to be of support to the people as well. There's been many times where we look to the system to guide us regarding what is a moral standpoint to take, and many times that system has failed us. So even that's something that might seem that it can be distributed in a ubiquitous manner, such as like limiting voting stations and whatnot. It actually then allows the system again to be able to make decisions on behalf of the people when the people is trying to get that particular system out of the way. So it's very interesting the wording that is used. It's very interesting the strategy that is used, limiting food and water, right? Usually the lines in disenfranchised communities can be twice as long as the lines that are not in disenfranchised communities. And so when you look at that, the incentive to be there and to get water and to get food, that keeps people being able to get there. Now, when you take that away, not only are you disincentivizing people to go to the polling stations, but then you're subjecting them to wait in these super long lines again with no incentive to vote. When the whole point is to be able to get as many people to vote as possible so that we are truly at the senses of the community.
Man, the way you speak of what it entails to have a lot of people gathered in one place to either participate in the political process or maybe get a resource. I can tell that part of that pantry experience is leaking out when you have people in line and for something that they need. You know what I mean? I can hear that because, right, people who have limited access to childcare, who have limited access to transportation, right, they need every possible amenity that we can provide to even make this potentially work, right, to be able to participate. People are operating a lot more hand to mouth than I think a lot of people think when they hear these types of stipulations that might not inhibit them from voting. So I appreciate the
Mhm.
way that you called that out. And if I can maybe give the people a little background that might be some experience that you speaking into
Please
that
do.
microphone, man. So I appreciate you. Anything else we need to cover on this topic of current news? Or I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of places we could go. What you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of places that we can go with it. What we try and focus on most on this podcast is always to leave people with the optimism of what the future can look like, and the different avenues in which we can go to express our frustrations, the different ways that we can protest. So just off the back, your dollar is king. That's your dollar is your first vote. Your wallet is your first vote. So the decisions that you make on a financial standpoint always, they always have the power to be able to tip the scales of whatever power structure is there, a la GameStop again. And then secondly from that is activism. The more that people are acting on trying to find solutions, the more that people are supporting, raising awareness, donating, spreading information. All of these different things lead towards it's a snowball effect of things. Changing systems is like that, and needs as many people rolling that snowball together. The more people that can add snow to that ball, the bigger it is. And so, people, it's time to get active. It's all it is. Get active.
That's right. That's right. Talk actionably amongst yourself and call spades spades. Spread awareness, spread the word, and on top of that, in times like these with so much hate, because all this is fueled by hate, fueled by fear of losing power, fear of not being the dominant group. Spade a spade. It's white supremacy. That's what it is. We've seen it rear its ugly head in a variety of different ways. Let's talk about it. Let's conversate. Let's find spaces to spread the word and also to spread love and healing. Because that's the only way that you overcome fear and hate is with healing.
Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate you,
And
brother.
likewise. And just going off of that point just a little bit is that I hope from COVID, what we get is a bunch of people who want to travel and explore and see the world, that being confined in a space makes us react in a way where we're the most traveling generation or whatever the case is, all for the purpose of people being exposed to the different realities that exist outside of their own comfort zones and outside of their own communities. Because once you're able to see how people are actually living, and you actually see the different struggles that people are having and the different things that people have to overcome, one, you're filled with gratitude about the situation that you're in more than not. And then also a lot of it gives you energy in order to try and do something about it.
Big facts. Big facts. Perspective is the number one superpower. And
Yeah.
in the same way that distance breeds contempt, proximity breeds understanding. So I hope people are allowed and able to put themselves into proximity with all types of different beautiful things, all types of different beautiful cultures, all types of different beautiful people to gain that understanding.